Welcome into our Hall of Fame edition of the Silver and Black Show. I'm Amber Theo Harris. This holiday weekend, we take time to show thanks for what we have, especially things that bring joy to our lives, like our family, food, and of course, Raider football. For so many of you, Raider Nation, childhood memories of watching Raider greats like Eric Allen and Steve Wisniewski bring back feelings of pride and happiness. Well, tonight, we relive those memories with you as we celebrate their nomination to the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025. Throughout the show, we'll be joined by their peers and colleagues to gain perspective on just how dominant they were. First up, we say hello to longtime Raiders radio talk show host, JT the Brick. All right, JT, it is so good to have you on. Nobody has covered the Raiders longer than you. You are a historian of sorts around this team. And I think if anybody could make a case for Eric Allen and Steve Wisniewski, it is you. Let's start with our good friend, EA. Covering him for so long, what stood out to you about EA?
Well, he's an amazing human being, but that doesn't help for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. What matters is stats. And I've been saying this from the day I met him. 54 career interceptions, 8 returns. The stats are overwhelming. He's one of the most dominant players when it comes to being a ball hawk. Now, he was a really good tackler. He was amazing once he got his hands, Amber, on the ball and knew how to find the end zone. But the way he jumped routes, the way he anticipated the football, and the way he made big plays in big games. He played with Reggie White. He played for Al Davis, Charles Woodson. He played on a great Raider team. And at the very end of his career, might have been the most productive years of his career. So his overall body of work, you cannot leave a gentleman out of Canton, Ohio that has 54 career interceptions. The number should be at about 40, 45 for automatic entrance, and he shattered that. He was a great football player.
JT, we hear a lot of stats, and it is about the stats, but there are points that people don't bring up that only sports reporters think of things like this. And it is look at the division at the period of time that he played in that division, especially with the Philadelphia Eagles, the type of competition that he was going up against with receivers at that period of time in the National Football League. And at that time, you had the Redskins, you had the Cowboys, who were very good, that were going to Super Bowls. And here he is defending those receivers, you know, guys like Michael Irving on those teams, Art Monk on those teams. So do you consider the competition and the division in which they played when you consider the Hall of Fame?
Absolutely. It's a great question. And how about all of those teams? You know, Dallas played inside, but the Giants outside in the snow, the Eagles playing at RFK. You want to talk about one of the most incredible environments to play. It was playing back then, Washington, outdoors. The Giants had the doors open with the wind swirling. He had to do it in the snow. He had to do it in the wind. He had to do it against great teams and rivalries. And, you know, I know Seth Joyner's great friends with EA. Jerome Brown's one of the best. He passed away. Reggie White passed away. Amber, let me tell you this. Imagine if Mr. Davis, and Mark has a lot of power within the Hall of Fame. Mark's done a lot behind the scenes in Canton. But if we go back to Mr. Davis when he was alive and Reggie White, if he was still alive, can you imagine them banging down the door in Canton over the last 4, 5, 6 years for Eric Allen? You got to take that into consideration of the time that he played. But getting back to the Oakland Raider years where I was able to cover him on the sideline, I just saw a guy who was so sharp, so into it, and he was helping mentor young players. He was at the end of his career. I think he could have played another 2 years. His last game was the tuck rule, and that ball was coming to him. That's one of my favorite EA stories, when he was standing behind Charlie Weiss and he heard the play. And then Brady brought the ball down. Well, why did he bring the ball down? For the fumble, because EA jumped the route. And imagine if the ball didn't come down and came out. He would have had 55, and maybe that would have been the biggest interception of his career. But he is more than worthy. I really get upset when legendary Raiders have to wait. It's a passion of mine to try to help get him in, and Eric Allen has waited too long.
No doubt about that. Let's move over to Steve Wisniewski. Guards aren't sexy, but if you don't have one, you're not going to win games. And Wiz was not just one of the best linemen, one of the best guards of all time. What made him special?
Great question. What made him special, and I talked to him recently on the radio, he was able to flip the switch and go from this gentleman, this kind guy who didn't have any jerseys in his house, no helmets, went home to his children, and they just thought of him as a dad. But when the game started, and that was before my time, before I came to the Raiders, but you see it on film, he turned into one of the most ruthless, nastiest, physical players to ever play the game. And what's good about Wiz now, Amber, is there seems to be this really good vibe around him, around his peers. You know, Mark Schlereth was on a podcast. Other people in podcasts and shows are talking about Steve Wisniewski, and they're going back saying, wait a second, he was on the all-decade team. He had the 8 Pro Bowls. He was dominant. He played all the time. He was notorious for being an aggressive player. And he told me, he goes, never was a player carted off the field against him. He never did anything dirty. He never undercut anyone. And at the end of every game, he shook hands with the opponent. I think he's actually, Amber, a guy who just got lost. I really do. I think he got lost in the history of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And now as we're looking back at it, we're all understanding how great Steve Wisniewski was.
He's not lost to the defensive lineman that had to go up against him. I can promise you that. He was also one of the most durable players, 206 games he started. He only missed 2 games for injury. Do you know how hard that is in a career for an offensive lineman? Not only that, what type of role did he play in the rushing attack of the Raiders of the 1990s?
Well, he was great because he could pull. So what was great about Wiz is that he could go right at you. So God forbid he was just matched up one-on-one. You had no chance. He knew the snap count. His first blocking was for Marcus Allen all the way up through the great running backs and fullbacks that he blocked for. But I think what makes Wiz amazing, if you look at his YouTube, and I'm sure we have great archives here at Silver and Black, when he pulled and came around the edge, remember it was Gene Upshaw with Art Shell who played guard that would go highway 63 and go around the left side. When Wiz was able to pull to the right and be able to dominate, when he came off on the edge and was going up against an outside linebacker, he just chewed him up and spit him out. He was fierce. So I thought he was great in the passing game, but you bring up a great point. His key was the running game. And back in his era, the Raiders ran the ball quite frequently, and they ran it behind Wiz.
You know who we should ask if he belongs in the Hall of Fame? You should ask people like Marcus Allen or Bo Jackson. I bet they could make a really good case for him, because without that offensive line, you know, maybe their careers weren't exactly the same. Hey, we appreciate you being with us, JT. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Amber.
Coming up, former Raider Roland Williams joins the show to tell us why the Wiz deserves his spot in Canton.
Some days are long, some nights never end. I'm on the fleeting seconds flight. I pray to the coming wind. And timelines never stood around for me. I've loved every sky I've ever seen.
Taste is not an option. Taste is everything. 1800, the world's most awarded tequila.
In 300 feet, turn left.
With Cox's fiber-powered internet, you can do brilliant things.
Exit approaching.
Like upload your voice to Dad's GPS in no time flat.
And I miss you, Daddy. Happy birthday.
Get multi-gig download speeds powered by fiber. Upgrade your internet today with Cox, the nation's fastest internet provider. Limited availability in select areas.
Every year, millions fly with us at Allegiant because together, we go places. We see old friends and try new things. We laugh. We really like to laugh. And reconnect. We remember. And we wander, which leads to wonder. From how we go to where we go to what we do when we get there, we go further together.
Some days are long, some nights never end. I'm on the fleeting seconds flight. I pray to the coming wind. And time like snow never stood around for me. I love every sky I've
The Silver and Black Show is brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders. 1800 Tequila, official partner of the Raiders. Taste is everything. Please drink responsibly. And by Allegiant, the official airline of the Raiders. Low fares, non-stop flights, only at Allegiant.com. Welcome back to a special Hall of Fame edition of the Silver and Black Show. When the 2025 Pro Football Hall of Fame class is announced at NFL Honors during Super Bowl week in New Orleans, one of the most dominant and durable guards to ever play the game needs to be on that stage. Steve Wisniewski literally held the line, and to help us understand his contribution to the game, we welcome in a man who blocked alongside him, former Raider tight end Roland Williams. Roland, it's good to see you. How are you?
Great to be seen, man. What a special time of the year. And let's do everything we can to get Steve in the Hall of Fame.
That's what we're trying to do, my friend. So make a case for him. Why does he deserve to be enshrined in Canton?
Well, I think when we talk about why he should be in the Hall of Fame, we got to start with durability. 206 starts as a guard, making plays, and probably one of the most competitive eras of the National Football League with people up front, going against big defensive linemen, making so many plays, it's ridiculous. 13 years in the league, 9 postseason games, 2-time first-team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, all-decade team. The list goes on. And the other part is, who else was better in his era of football? Who else was better playing guard? I would say nobody. I played with him. Not only is that, he's a great human being. I just think that it's long overdue. He should be in the Hall of Fame. He deserves it, and he has all the skill sets and proved it on the field.
I always say, let's look at other Hall of Fame, linemen, and how does he measure up to them? There's guys like Gene Upshaw. He's a 5-time All-Pro. Steve Wisniewski was an 8-time All-Pro. So let's keep that number, 8-time All-Pro. Larry Allen, 7-time All-Pro. Alan Faneca, he was an 8-time All-Pro. And Steve Hutchinson, 7 times. So 3 of those 4 men that I just listed have fewer All-Pro selections than Steve Wisniewski. But what did he do as far as a blocker? Both, let's start with the run game. Because in the 2000s, let's back it up. Let's go to the year 2000. The Raiders led the league in rushing. Let's start there. Led the league in rushing. So as a run blocker, what was he like? What skills did he have?
Well, I think that the best thing you can do as an offensive guard is to get movement at the line of scrimmage, right? His strength and his power to get big men to move was something that was eerie. But then you got to be smart enough and good enough to get up to that second level. The base blocking, the combo blocking to the next level, critical for a running game to exist. He showed that he can do that time and time again. His footwork was flawless. When I used to watch him on film, it was like you can watch a teach tape for how to do it, time in and time out. It didn't matter. And again, the consistency, I think that's the part. Sometimes the greatest players don't get the respect they deserve because you get so used to greatness. People don't even appreciate it, right? And so I think Steve was just that kind of person, super strong at the point of attack, always reliable, could get to the next level, and just a force of nature, man, just so strong and super intelligent to go along with it.
Do you remember some of the matchups firsthand as you were there on the line, blocking next to him, looking at some of the great linemen, the great defensive linemen that he was lining up against in your division and was able to completely eliminate? Can you give us some stories about that?
Well, I think in our division, obviously, we had the teams that we hated. We had the Chiefs, we had the Chargers, blah blah blah. But to me, it was the big moments. It's about the postseason. The Baltimore Ravens at that time had one of the strongest defenses in the league, and everybody knew about Ray Lewis. But also, they had some impressive defensive linemen up front. And so, if you go back and watch that film, you'll watch so many times Steve Wisniewski eliminate these dudes, you know what I'm saying, off the field and critical points, stopping blitzes. So much didn't happen because we had the stability at the guard position. And so that's the part that when you watch our offense and how we ran, there wasn't pressure on the inside. Things came from the outside, and that was because Steve was just so darn good. And so it just pop in any film. You're going to get the same consistent performance. You're going to get a guy who knew how to be strong at the point of attack in the run game. And in the passing game, which also is one that people don't give him credit for, he was a great pass blocker as well. And I just don't think linemen get enough love, enough respect. There would be no offense. There would be no prolific offense. All the things, Tim Brown, Jerry Rice, Rich Gannon was our quarterback during that time. Charlie Garner, running back, Tyrone Wheatley. The list goes on and on. All of those guys will tell you that Steve was a big part of all that happening.
I always hate to look at these guys that deserve to be in and have been overlooked for years, and then I see a new guy in the same position, come onto the ballot. Marshall Yanda's on the ballot this year, and he's a great guard. I mean, deserves to be a Hall of Famer. But are you a little concerned about recency bias? I know two players of the same position can go in, but when voters look at that, do you think they tend to say, I don't want to put too many guards in one year, or maybe if I had to pick one, I'd pick one of the... How do you avoid recency bias? Like, what is the perspective people should keep about Wiz?
I think that's one of the terrible parts about how this process works. Sometimes, like, there's just not enough to go around, and it's not always the most deserving player. It's about the deserving player with the position at that year, et cetera, right? It's like when certain players come out, you knew, hey, Tim Brown is coming out. Like, it's the Hall of Fame time. Like, it's just always a limit to how many players they let in. I think that's just one of the parts about the league, but you can't forget about number 76. Come on,
Roland, I can tell
Fame.
what influence he had on your life and your memories of him, and we just really appreciate you taking time this weekend to share them with us, and we're all going to keep our fingers crossed that Wiz gets exactly what he deserves, and that's a gold jacket.
He deserves it, and I can't wait to be there in Canton to celebrate with him.
Coming up, Hall of Fame wide receiver Tim Brown stops by the show to tell us why it's Eric Allen's time to be enshrined in Canton. The Silver and Black Show has been brought to you by Cox, proud partner of the Las Vegas Raiders, Ticketmaster, the official ticket marketplace of the Las Vegas Raiders and the NFL. And by Allegiant, the official airline of the Raiders. Low fares, non-stop flights, only at Allegiant.com. Welcome back. Quarterbacks who played against Eric Allen knew one thing to be true. You simply didn't throw in his direction, not unless you wanted to get embarrassed. To help us understand just how dominating EA was, let's welcome in Hall of Famer and Raider great Tim Brown to the show. And Tim, we really appreciate your time. You're a Hall of Fame veteran, 2015. You've been through this process before. Nobody has endured it longer than EA. He is in his 19th year of eligibility. What is it? Are you frustrated when you look at the fact he hasn't gotten in yet?
Yeah, you don't think about it until you see his name, and when you see his name, you lose your mind because, I mean, this is a guy who belongs in the Hall of Fame, and it's just something about when you put those Raider colors on, man. They make you wait a little bit longer, but it's unfortunate for EA, but hopefully this will be the year to push him through.
Why exactly should he be enshrined? Because when you look at who should be in the Hall of Fame, it was, did he dominate the position he played, and did he dominate that position in the era he played in? Does he meet both of those criteria?
Well, without a doubt. I mean, you can just look at the time that he was with the Raiders, having to line up with Charles Woodson on one side where people were definitely not going to do that. Well, when they tried him, it didn't work out either for them, you know. So I think for those 4 or 5 years that he had with the Raiders, I mean, those years alone, he belongs. But when you look at his career with New Orleans and Philly, this is a guy that has done it on a consistent basis. 200 games, 217 games, I think he played in his career. I mean, that's getting it done at a very high level.
You had a chance to go up against him in practice and see him firsthand. I mean, you went up against the best in the NFL, the best corners. What made him so special?
Well, it wasn't that he was so fast and so strong, but he had a combination of both, right? He had the strength and he had the speed, but he was a smart guy. He knew how to play the position. He knew how to play you. He would play me different than he would play Jerry Rice, So it's when you see a guy who is studying the game like that and studying us the way he studied us for training camp, you know this is a guy that's going to play at a very high level, and certainly he did.
There's kind of a system for getting in the Hall of Fame. You have to go through a process. You have to go through people standing up for you and explaining, presenting you essentially why you should be in the Hall of Fame. What makes that process so different from one year to another? Why does a guy not get in one year and then the next year he has a great presentation once again, still has the same numbers? What improves their chance of getting in from year to year?
Yeah, I mean, that's a magic bullet that I don't think anybody knows at this particular point. We believe me, when I retired, I was 3, 3, 2, 3, 2, 2, and 3, I think, with yards, catches, and touchdowns. And it didn't happen. We kept saying, well, because of this, you got to shake this around. You got to, and you just never know what the magic portion is. But I really believe that, with a guy like EA, you just got to go and put the facts out there. Look at what he did up against the best receivers in the league, and look at the results of that.
Well, allow me to present for my friend Eric Allen, because I'm looking at the numbers right here, and Eric Allen has the same amount of interceptions as Hall of Famers Willie Brown and Darryl Green. I grew up in the Washington area in the 80s. I remember Darryl Green. He was the greatest. And Eric Allen, if he has the same numbers, he deserves to be there as well. Also, Eric Allen held the single-season record for interceptions returned for touchdowns for 30 years. He held it from 1993 all the way to 2023 when Deron Bland just last year did it for Dallas. So that says something. Shouldn't he be in because of the numbers are the same as these greats?
I mean, that's really the issue, Amber. There is no set parameter for any position. It's really what these guys feel on voting day, and that's unfortunate, I think.
Well, we certainly hope that he gets the opportunity, not only because of how great he was on the field. If you know Eric Allen, he was a fierce competitor on the field, but he's a great dude off the field. He received the Ed Block Courage Award, which is quite an honor, in 1999. It was given to teammates, it still is, who show commitment to sportsmanship and courage. What did he not only do, as a person off the field, but for other men around him, the influence that he probably had as a leader in that locker room? You were in there with him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, when you're the veteran like he was in the league, around the same time, and we came into the league the same year, so I mean, we grew up together in the league, is what I like to say. But seeing him around his family, around his wife, around his kids, I mean, he was quite the example. This guy. Look, you can't do any more than what Eric Allen did. I mean, certainly we all want to win 15 championships and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't happen that way. But this guy has done everything on a football field from a personal standpoint. And the Hall of Fame is not about how many times you won a championship. It's about what you personally did on the football field. And if they really go by that, I think they will very quickly put this guy in the Hall of Fame this year.
Well, Tim Brown, I cannot wait to see the day when you're sitting up there on the stage in Canton and your buddy Eric Allen has that jacket on and sits down right next to you. What a moment that will be, and we all pray that we get a chance to see that. Thanks so much for joining us, Tim.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Raider Nation will be waiting anxiously to find out if EA and Steve Wisniewski will be the 31st and 32nd Raiders to enter the halls of Canton. That'll do it for us on the special edition of the Silver and Black Show. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We're going to see you next time.
Taste is not an option. Taste is everything. 1800, the world's most awarded tequila.
In 300 feet, turn left.
With Cox's fiber-powered internet, you can do brilliant things.
Exit approaching.
Like upload your voice to Dad's GPS in no time flat.
And I miss you, Daddy. Happy birthday.
Get multi-gig download speeds powered by fiber. Upgrade your internet today with Cox, the nation's fastest internet provider. Limited availability in select areas.
Some days are long, some nights never end. I mark the fleeting seconds glide. I pray to the coming wind. And timelines never stood around for me. I love every sky
Every year, millions fly with us at Allegiant because together, we go places. We see old friends and try new things. We laugh. We really like to laugh. And reconnect. We remember. And we wander, which leads to wonder. From how we go to where we go to what we do when we get there, we go further together.
birthday.